Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living Morning Meditation. My name's Barbara Kane. I'm a licensed religious science practitioner, and I'll be guiding our meditation this morning. So I'm going to do a reading from 365 Ernest Holmes' The Science of Mind, and we'll have a silent meditation for about 15 minutes, and then I will do a blessing at the end of it. And I'm looking forward to everyone diving into that deep sense of peace and quiet and love wherein the essence of spirit lies. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath and close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And just relax your body, starting with the top of your head down to your ears, your neck, and your shoulders. Take another breath, let it out slowly, and just relax your upper body, your back, your abdomen, your hips, your knees, your lower legs, and your feet. And now I'll begin the reading. How wonderful to realize that from one formless and invisible substance, everything that is visible comes. The invisible essence of things is the spirit of life itself. Realizing the spirit at the center of people and things is silent communion with the divine presence. There is but one life. When we recognize life in others, it is the life in us that is responding to them. As we unify with this life through people, it automatically unifies with us. As we agree with it, it agrees with us. From this recognition, there comes a quietening of our own consciousness. It is written that it is the Spirit that quickeneth. And now just quietly allow these words to settle in for the silent meditation. And now please start bringing your attention back into your bodies and back into the room. Move your hands and feet, wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. And I will say the closing prayer. Today I know that my spirit is quickened as I recognize the same spirit in others. Realizing the presence of life in all nature, I know that it responds to me. I am one with that which is alive, awake, and aware. There is nothing dead, nothing stagnant, nothing inactive. In all, through all, and around all, I realize one presence. There are diversities of things, but the same spirit. And so it is. And I invite you all to join us for our service, which starts at 10:15. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome everyone to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. Whether you are sitting here at Sophie's Grill and Bar or you have invited us into your homes through the power of live streaming, thank you so very much for including us in your morning. My name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I happen to have the privilege of being this community's spiritual director. We're part of a larger group called Centers for Spiritual Living, which have centers all over the world. And we believe that there is one power and presence, not a power and presence that is outside of us, sitting on some cloud somewhere, doling out punishments and favors at whim, but actually an energy, a loving energy that is within us and surrounds us, and that we are connected to in ways that can never, ever be broken. It is that which created each and every single one of us, each and everything that we can see and not see, each and every sentient being on the planet. And because we were created by it, then there is this golden thread of God stuff that weaves itself throughout all of life, connecting us one to the other, to the other, to the other. And we also believe that since we were created in its image and likeness, and since it is creative, then we too have this ability to create. And in fact, we are creating every moment of every day, whether we are aware of it or not. Our thoughts, our feelings, our deeply held beliefs create the experiences of our lives. And so for me, that might sound like a lot of responsibility, but in actuality, it's the really good news, because if we don't like the experience of life that we're having in this moment, we have the power to change it. Change your thinking, change your life is not just a bumper sticker, but it is really a true spiritual practice and principle that we happen to believe and teach here at our center. So again, we're very, very grateful that you have joined us this morning. I would like to thank Barbara Kane, licensed spiritual practitioner here at the center, for her beautiful meditation, for really expanding the container that our service will unfold within this morning. And speaking of Barbara Kane, please welcome her back to the podium.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Dusty always tells me this is easy, but I never find it easy. All right. The theme for the year 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. Our theme for the month of July is relationships. Reverend Dusty's talk title is You and Me Create Society. And I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And now I ask you to close your eyes one more time and center yourselves as we allow the healing sounds of the crystal bowls to simply wash over you. invite you to now bring your attention back into the room, and we will go forward with the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, honoring the diversity and truth, threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Please welcome the newly engaged Chris and Marjorie. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by spiritual law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. And now I'd like to ask you, if you're comfortable, to close your outer eyes as I speak a blessing on the service. And I recognize the joy in this moment, the one power, the one life, the one love, which is God, Spirit, in, as, and through each of us. And I know that this wonderful essence of love and joy is a true reminder to all of us that we are always loved, that we are always in spirit. And so I speak a blessing on the service this morning, knowing that as we enjoy this time together, that it feeds our spirit and we bring it forth into our communities. And I speak a blessing on this community, on this congregation, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. And I speak a blessing on our wonderful Reverend Dusty, as she herself makes herself a conduit for the voice of Spirit, and that she herself is a blessing and is blessed through this action. And I speak a blessing on all the volunteers that help to bring this service to you today, and to our wonderful musical inspiration, Miles and Latha Costin, as they grace us with the gift of music and song. And so we go forward in this morning with love and joy, and so it is.
So it is.
Today's reading is from Sean A. Ginwright. He says, "In our dance through the wilderness, we come to realize that transformative justice is not so much about left or right politics, progressive or conservative policies, nor red and blue states. These are the old binary political configurations that keep us lost in the woods, circling without a map of where to go. There is a third way, and it's neither left nor right, but up. The third way is an evolution in collective consciousness that transforms how we relate, interact, work, and play together. In our journey to create a more just world, all of us must learn to be more human and lean into the courage to create a world based in love and justice. Now let's go into the wild together without fear, knowing that collectively we are destined to find that there never was a wilderness at all. And so it is. And now I have the extreme pleasure of introducing these wonderful musicians, Miles and Letha Costin. Thank you.
Well, I got a little laughter in my belly, singing in this head, a bright idea and blind spot, tethered by a thread. Long as I look at this world right, wear a kind of light, appreciate the things that really matter. When I got a little little seed of kindness falls to the ground, rolls into forest of kindness and love all around. Well, I got a little hope inside this heart, jelly in these legs. Good sign that I'm living life out on the edge. Long as I look before I leave, the joke is kind of steep. Spend my time enjoying the ride. When I got a little hope inside, and a little seed of kindness falls to the ground, grows into a forest of kindness and love all around. Well, I got a little peace inside this mind, goodwill in these hands. I'm tired of drawing lines on sinking sand. Long as I'm willing to do some, agree to do no harm, a living there's no enemy to find. When I got a little peace inside, when I got a little peace inside.
Thank you very much, Miles and Letha. That was beautiful, beautiful song. I don't think I've heard you sing it before. And it was absolutely perfect for the day, really speaking to this idea of living our lives from the inside out. So you and me create society. Society, by definition, is a community of people living in a particular country or a particular region. It is the totality of social relationships among a large group of people who are living together in an organized way, who are really making decisions and making agreements about how to live and really about how to do things, right? And then they share in the work that needs to be done. Now, societies and the people within them create laws, and they construct patterns of behavior that really are known as societal norms. Now, these societal norms deem certain actions or certain concepts as acceptable or unacceptable within a given society, right? Now, in a perfect world, those laws and those societal norms would work for everyone. For example, freedom, access to resources, abundance, equal rights, protection under the law, or, really being able to be the expression of the divine that we are. All of those things in a perfect world would be the collective agreement of a world society, really of a totally united world society. Those agreements and those laws would be in place for everyone. In a perfect world, we would manifest societies that would work for all, which would include everybody that we're in relationship with and everybody that we haven't met yet. With no exceptions, it would include everyone. But that hasn't always been our reality. Some laws and societal norms clearly fit into a world that works for everyone, while others do not. Some of them we can easily see are for the benefit of everyone, while others very clearly harm people or hurt people or hold them down. Slavery and Jim Crow in the United States, apartheid in South Africa, the anti-Semitism in Hitler's Germany, to name just a few. Racism, sexism, ageism, able-bodyism, religious oppression, and others contribute to collective laws and societal norms which keep some people down and don't allow them to really be the fullest expression of themselves that they came here to be. Reverend Jim Lockhart says the United States is a nation which was founded on high ideals for their time. But the ideals were largely aspirational, masking oppression and violence towards Native Americans, the enslaved Africans, and others. These masked aspects became the shadow of the nation, one which has grown over time through wars, corruption, ongoing racism, sexism, religious opposition, and more. Our denial of those masked aspects has pressurized our collective psyche. They are now erupting into nearly every aspect of our national lives. Our national psyche is crying for our attention and healing in the same way that our individual psyche does, by causing disturbances and disruptions so that we pay attention. Now, the underlying truth is that when we do not address our shadow sides, do not address and actually cling to our false premises and the ideas and the beliefs that no longer serve us, they will continue to have their way with us. They will continue to work in back of our perceptions, right? They're back there in the underbelly working against what we're thinking we're trying to do. They go into our individual subconscious or into the collective unconsciousness, and they continue to remain active in our choices, in our actions, and in our experiences, but they do so behind the scenes. Unless we truly bring them into the light, we will never get rid of their influences on us. We will never be able to really heal them unless we consciously bring them up into the light. Now, we're being helped along in doing this by their disruptive nature in this moment throughout the world, right? I believe that the behaviors and that the chaos that we are seeing and experiencing in the world today are part of a deeper process. They're part of a deeper process or symptoms of our need to create transformational change throughout humanity. There has to be transformational change. I think it's kind of like the transformational changes that have to occur in that caterpillar before it can become a butterfly. In all probability, I have never talked to a caterpillar, but in all probability, it's not all that much fun. Many of our laws, our societal norms, our political ideas, our socioeconomic forms, our gender assumptions, and our cultural habits will have to turn to goo before the world can actually transform. Everything has to really fall apart in order for it to be made anew. Otherwise, we just keep making the same mistakes again and again and again and again. Nora Bates writes of the liquefaction of our institutions. She says, most cannot adapt to the increasingly complex needs of humanity. If we do not seek to resolve the conflicts and errors of the past, which we have buried in our psyches, individual and collective, we will not be fully available to deal with the current challenges. The repressed aspects, the things we hide or pretend to hide ourselves, take up too much room in our mental and emotional process. So this month is an invitation to anchor in the spiritual practices of engaged relationships. The first Sunday of the month, we talked about our relationship with ourselves. Last Sunday, Reverend Jim talked about our relationship with others. And today, we're taking a deeper dive into our individual and collective relationship with society. Now, the bottom line is that the relationships that we have with this broader group of people is what has created and will continue to create our societies themselves. Those relationships. What we feel about ourselves, what we feel about each other. The agreements that we make and those that we agree to by default are what affect and govern how we interact and relate to one another. The agreements that we agree upon and the ones that we just take on by default, unconsciously. Because it's been that way for forever or ever, whatever. It's in our collective unconsciousness. But all of that continues to affect and govern how we react and interact with each other, how we treat each other. For years, possibly since humans first started communicating with each other, there have been complaints and commentaries about what is wrong with the world. what is wrong with the government, what is wrong with our churches, what is wrong with this country or that country, what is wrong with our schools, what is wrong with the weather, what is wrong with our jobs, with our cars, with our spouses, with our children, and the list goes on ad nauseum. Right? I'm preaching to the choir. Now, the energy, right, the energy of these complaints has never, ever, nor will it ever change one single thing. That kind of energy will not change anything. We cannot create positive change from a context of negativity or from lack or from limitation. It is only when dedicated people see a vision of a world that works for everyone, of a world that they would love to live in and work towards that vision, can any effective and beneficial change actually happen. Not when we're looking back, not when we're constantly analyzing and complaining and having running commentaries about what's going on, only when we look toward that vision. If we're going to create lasting change and transform society, we must begin to discuss, to envision, and to become the beloved community within ourselves first. Miles sang about it. I have in me peace. I have in me hope. Living, moving, and being the expression of a unified society calls us into a new paradigm, a new way of being in the world, a new way of being in the world that we have never been before completely. So what does that look like? How do we come together to create the transformational changes that our current societies need today? Well, the question, what do we have to do, is important, a way more important question is, who do we have to be? Who do we have to be to become? Who do we have to be? Who do we have to become to create societies that work for everyone? As I was preparing for my message, I came across a book called The Four Pivots: Reimagining Justice and Reimagining Ourselves by Sean A. Ginwright. He did the quote that Babs wrote this morning, the reading. In the book, he talks about a need for a fundamental shift in our values, a pivot in how we think, how we connect, how we act, and how we work. He describes a pivot as a small change in direction. A small direction that over time will really get us to where we want to be. Right? So if you're thinking about like a vector going off, I'm going in that direction and it's going to get me there. If I just change that very, very little, and then you go out in time, it's going to be a big and major change. But initially, it was a small little pivot. And by doing that, we can get to where we want to be. A pivot is not a complete abandonment of what we know. We know a lot of really wonderful things. So it's not a complete abandonment of what we know, but a braiding together of what we know and what we feel and what we vision for ourselves, who we wish to be, and who we were created to be. Both as individuals, as communities, and as a society. Most of what we have done in the past has not created real and lasting change. Hello. Need I say, it hasn't created real and lasting change. We might have thought it did, but it didn't. It hasn't created societies that work for everyone. For Sean Ginwright, a pivot acknowledges the collective harm and the individual injury that has occurred. Acknowledge that. Bring it up. Talk about it. Have a conversation about it. Heal it. And also lean into a future of unlimited possibilities. Unless we do all that, we don't have the freedom to step into unlimited possibilities. We're constantly bringing it along with us. He says a pivot involves renewing our sense of possibility, transforming how we see the world, and shifting the values of our culture. This can happen only when we foster a collective imagination that restores communal wisdom, that embraces both imagination and engagement, empathy and power, reflection and action. A pivot means that we need to dream higher about the future that we want to create. We need to dream higher. Today, I'm giving us all a little teeny tiny glimpse into these 4 pivots and how we can use them to create the beloved community, a world that works for everyone. So pivot number 1 is a pivot from lens to mirror. From lens to mirror. And the invitation here is that instead of viewing the world through a thick lens, which is what we do, right? I mean, through a thick lens. For example, all of the analysis ad nauseum of the social problems, but instead viewing it as a mirror of ourselves. Take a deep breath, everybody. It's okay. This involves a shift from simply articulating the issues to the practice of self-reflection and exploration of who we are as individuals and how we contribute to the world that we are living in today and to the world that we want to create. The bottom line is that although it is important to analyze what is happening and what needs to change, it's just not enough to just analyze. It's just not enough. We also have to do the deeper reflective work, the inner work, to heal ourselves in order to be able to heal society. In order to be able to heal the world, we need to individually heal our woundedness before we can heal the woundedness of the whole. Many people will say that they don't need to heal. But the truth is that we all need to heal in some way or another, each and every single one of us. The questions we could ask ourselves is, as you're looking out at the world today, what is that in me? Where is this chaos? Where is this anger? Where is this violence in me? How is it showing up? And the answers to those questions, and really allowing ourselves to tell ourselves the truth, will allow ourselves to really show up in really powerful ways. And we'll do that from a space of vulnerability, from a space of generosity, from a space of being really open and really loving. And when we do that within all of our own relationships, the world will become more loving. It can't work any other way. It has to work that way. Pivot number 2 is a pivot in our connections, from transactional to transformational. Now, transactional relationships, they're efficient. They're really efficient in that they assist us to engage with each other in a way that's really defined. There's no ambiguity, right? Think about our relationship with the cashier at your friendly neighborhood grocery store. You go in, you grab a cart, you pick up the items that you need and those that you want. And you take the cart and you go up to the cashier's station, and that person, the cashier, rings it all up, and there's an exchange of money in some way, a card or some actual money. Used to be maybe a check, perhaps not anymore. Right? And then you move on. And this is really reflective of all of the transactional relationships that we have each and every single day of each and every single moment of our lives, right? We have a lot of transactional kinds of relationships. They allow us to get things done, and they allow us to get things done quickly. Not a lot of muss, not a lot of fuss, not a lot of chit-chat, just get it done. Now, Sean Ginwright says, the challenge is that when our society is dominated by transactional relationships and our systems are governed by performing tasks and our daily interactions are based on efficiency, then we slowly begin to erode our capacity for care, compassion, and all of the things that make us human. On the other hand, transformative relationships in our professional and in our personal lives deepen the human connection through vulnerability, empathy, and really reverent listening. It would behoove all of us, within all of our families, within our communities, in all arenas of our lives, to really base our relationships on the listening to each other's stories, to being there, to being present, to witness the stories about who we all are at our very core, the stories about who we are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can just think about the times you've really sat and talked with someone and really got to know them at a deeper level. How bonding that is, how important that is. In order to transform our relationships, our lives, our societies, and the world, we have to cultivate that ability to really see and to know each other. We have to cultivate it. We have to consciously do it. Otherwise, everything just remains transactional. We have to have the conversations that really allow us to powerfully show up with each other in ways that allow for transformation to happen. We have to be the space for that. Pivot number 3 is a pivot in vision. And for me, it actually showed up as like 2 mini pivots in vision, but they're subtly very different. The first is a pivot from a limited vision to a larger, more expanded and inclusive vision. My guess is that most of us remember the story about the 6 blind men and the elephant, right? So as the parable goes, there are 6 blind men that are in a room and they're with an elephant. None of them have ever seen an elephant. And they're asked to describe the parts of the elephant from their perspective. So one of them feels the trunk and claims that an elephant is like a big, long snake. Another one of them feels the tusk and says that the elephant is actually a very sharp spear. Another one feels the really rough and large leg and says, no, an elephant is more like a tree. And so on and so on. You get the gist, right? So unable to see the entire animal, they assume, get this, they assume that the other's descriptions are wrong and deceptive, and an argument ensues. Just like the visually impaired men, with the elephant, we all have limitations about what we see, and more often than not, without any awareness of our limitations. We think that our version of the world is the one true version of the world. The truth is that sometimes we are not aware of how our perspective can shine a light on something and how it can actually obscure other things. Sometimes we're just too close to the whole thing. We're just too close to it, too embroiled in it. We have a limited view of what is really happening. Most of the time, we don't question what we see, we just act upon it. Now, when we make that pivot, in our perspective, we become aware of the possibility that our perspective is limited. And by being willing to step back and to expand our view, we gain a fuller perspective of what is actually happening, of what we are seeing. Not that limited perspective, but a fuller one, by just stepping back and looking at it from a higher or a more expanded view. Gaining perspective is not a matter of being right or wrong. It just means that we pull back and become curious about a possible bigger picture. Just become curious about it. Sean Ginwright says this pivot in our perspective means that we have to interrogate our mental models, question our assumptions, and ponder our meaning making about events that we see in the world. And we are meaning making machines. Until we do this, we will continue to respond to events stemming from racism, homophobia, and sexism because we have failed to examine America's collective mental models about who belongs and who deserves. It's like we will continue to play whack-a-mole with injustice because we haven't dealt with the root causes of what creates injustice in the first place. The deeply held mental model of who is human, who belongs, and who deserves. Perspective means that we all interrogate these questions in every moment and that we become the observer of our own assumptions. Become the observer of our own assumptions. I love that idea. Not right or wrong. Be open to something bigger. Be curious. The second pivot in this idea of vision is from problem fixing to possibility creating. The bottom line is that we've all grown up in a world that really asks us to focus on fixing problems and not on creating new possibilities. When we're focusing on fixing problems, we're working from a context of lack and limitation. Something's not right. Something's wrong, and I need to make it right. Something's broken, and I need to fix it. This keeps our attention on the issues, on the challenges, on the problems, and draws more of the same into our experience. We talk about that all the time. Now, when we can pivot and shift our focus to our intention, to our goals, to our dreams, to our vision, then we're creating from unlimited possibilities. We're calling something new into our experience. We don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. We can create from nothing. We live in a universe of unlimited possibilities, and we can create from that space and place. If we are in the business of making deep change, which I think if you're here, you're all about that, then we have to transform what we believe is possible. It is our job to lean into the practice of possibilities and to strive for the world that we want to create, to strive for that. We have to see beyond what we are fighting against and really look to what we are creating, to what we are imagining, and to what we are striving for, to have that as our singular focus. Pivot number 4 is a pivot in presence, from hustle to flow. This involves transforming our addiction, dare I say, addiction to frenzy. So shifting that addiction to frenzy to really an addiction or an existence of calm well-being. It just feels nice saying it. The truth is, I think if we were to ask each other, we may be honest. We may say that we know that we do have a little bit of an addiction to frenzy, that we really like being really busy, or in some cases that we really need to hustle in order to survive, right? So we have this addiction to frenzy. The only problem is that it's our addiction to frenzy that's getting in the way of our well-being. A shift to well-being means that we reclaim our right to be well. Mr. Jin Wright encourages us to slow down the pace of our day. Say no more often and without guilt. And to take a nap every once in a while. So the invitation this morning is for each of us to really individually and collectively take a good hard look at our laws, our societal norms, our political ideas, our social economic forms, our gender assumptions, and our cultural habits. Yes, to do that, but to also, and more importantly, take a deep, hard look at ourselves, to do that inner reflective work, and to be able to bring into the light any of our woundedness and any of society's woundedness in order for it to be healed. To let go of our addiction to frenzy and to powerfully step into the flow of life. To let go of our us versus them mentality, and to be willing to take the time and to have the courage to sit down and to really reverently listen to another person's story. To listen to their story for the commonalities and for the wisdom that is contained in them. Because it is taking that time and hearing those commonalities and hearing that wisdom that will allow us to create new norms and new laws and new societies and new institutions that actually work for everyone. To really know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is you and me that create societies, and that it is our responsibility to do everything that we can to create societies that work for everyone. I believe, I know, I have the vision that it can be done. And so it is. So it is. So I just invite everyone to turn within, to allow ourselves to turn away from the world of form, those laws and societal norms and ideas and beliefs that have perhaps not worked very well in the past for us. And instead turn to the center of our being, that space and place that I call God, that I know is the very essence of unconditional love itself. I know that this love is who and what I am at my very core. No matter the societal conditioning or the experiences I've had or the limited perceptions and perspectives that I have and see through the lenses of my upbringing, the truth is, who I am is the very essence of love itself. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is absolutely true for each and every person here at Sophie's today, for each and every person in their homes listening to this now, those people that will listen to it later, every sentient being on the planet, each and every single one of us is a unique and divine expression of the divine, here to be God's ambassadors. At this time, we are here at this time. We have chosen to be here. There is something about who we are and what we are to do and who we are to be, more importantly, that assists in creating a world that works for everyone. I am glad that we're all here together. I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for our awareness of spiritual principle and practice, and that we bring it into our lives in really powerful ways that allow us to shift, to make that very small pivot in our lives. I'm grateful for this community in which supports one another as we do so. I'm grateful knowing the way that it works, and that as each of us does the inner work to examine our own consciousness, to bring forward any woundedness that we have within us and heal it, that we are contributing to the healing of the planet, the healing of the one world community, the one world society. It is the way that it works. As within, so without. And so I claim ease and grace for us around living from that space, around living that kind of life, around being that kind of contribution, raising people up and furthering the transformation of the world. Not just moving around the puzzle pieces, but actually transforming the world into something that works for everyone. I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words, so grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation. Letting go and letting God be God, I invite everyone to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It is now time for our conscious giving. Now is the time each week that we come together to give of our treasure to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth and love in the Greater Triangle area. Together, we affirm the truth that today's offering lifts this spiritual community, prospers the one giving, and contributes to the experience of efficiency on the planet. There are several ways that you can give, and they're here on the screen. Visit our website at www.trianglecsl.org. You can text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or you can mail your gift to our office at the address PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina, 27519. And in this moment, I invite you to place your hand on your heart gift or with an and we'll say our offering affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you all so very much for your generosity. We're now going to take just a moment before we go back to the amazing Miles and Letha to have a little financial update. Is it there? Yes, it is there. The June financials. I know you all been wondering about them. So our expenses during the month of June were $13,154.98. This is in alignment with how the expenses have been throughout the year and in alignment with our budget. So it's all on track. Our income, what we took in, was $26,260.24, which, if you remember how it was the months before, is huge. So what I will tell you is that a little over $12,000 of this was a one-time committed gift, of which, yes, of which we are extremely grateful and appreciative of. So thank you very much to the giver. So our net income then, based on that, was $13,105.26. But if you take off the $12,000, it's about $1,000 and a little and some change, right? So that is, again, how we have been being pretty much over the course of this year. A little above or a little below, but always meeting our expenses and just a little bit above our expenses. Our bank balance, with that large tithe, and actually another smaller large tithe, is now $69,637.59. We are abundant. We truly are abundant. So thank you all very, very much. We are so appreciative of it. We could not be here without your generosity and the giving of your time, talent, and treasure. So thank you all so very much. And now, please welcome back to their guitars, Miles and Letha.
Thank you. Check 1, 2, check. Could I get a little bit more on the vocal, just a touch?
Y'all are going to help us out with this one. Okay? You know it. Sing along. We want to hear you.
2, 3, 4. I can see clearly now the rain is through. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me down. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Oh, yes, I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. see all obstacles in my way. Here is the rainbow I've been waiting for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny
Thank you guys so much. That was really, really fun. All right. If anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the homepage, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We'll get the prayer and send it out to all the ministers and the practitioners. And if anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone or anything, please contact Heather Abbott at info@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. Once again, our outreach ministry has chosen to support the Wake County Guardian Ad Litem's backpack project this summer. We will focus on high school age students. Those of us that feel called to participate can do so in a number of ways. You can purchase a list of items to complete a full backpack. You can purchase a number of single items, or you can simply donate money and the outreach ministry will do the shopping. You can bring your purchased items to any Sunday service in July or contact my it's really light on here, sorry. Maya Presley, MAYAPRESSLEY @yahoo.com. There is a copy of the list of the necessary items available on the welcome table with your name on it. Please grab one on your way. Okay, I think I shouldn't have read that. Sorry. Okay, now another something different. Save the date announcement for our August get together. Okay, the Durham Bulls. This is really fun, everybody. Okay. First 25 to register will be cheering for the Durham Bulls against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp on Friday, August 12th. The tickets will be along the first base side of the stadium. Love donation appreciated. Some amazing fireworks will follow the game. It's a wonderful evening. If you've never done this, it's really worth it. Reach out to Heather or Dusty to reserve your tickets. And bring your little squirt bottles to keep yourselves cool. Now, in the comfort of your own home, please stand for our July affirmation. This is a call and response. Please say it with meaning and repeat after me. Ready? I understand the way we relate to ourselves, one another, the world, and the divine are all interconnected.
I understand that the way we relate to ourselves, one another, the world, and the divine are all interconnected.
Because of that, I cannot claim to love anything or anyone while holding anything or anyone outside of my heart, including myself.
Because of that, I cannot claim to love anything or anyone while holding anything or anyone outside of my heart, including myself.
Therefore, I vow to become my own best friend.
Therefore, I vow to become my own best friend.
Beyond loving myself, I proclaim that a plethora of people are drawn to me by the ever-active law of attraction.
Beyond loving myself, I proclaim that a plethora of people people are drawn to me by the ever active law of attraction.
With that in mind, I'm called to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate with all of them in meaningful ways.
With that in mind, I am called to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate with all of them in meaningful ways.
I am a catalyst here to nurture, empower, and engage with everyone through the power of unconditional love.
I am a catalyst here to nurture, empower, and engage with everyone through the power of unconditional love.
Beyond that, I recognize the divinity within everything, and I consciously choose to nurture a loving relationship with all of it.
Beyond that, I recognize the divinity within everything, and I consciously choose to nurture a loving relationship with all.
And so it is.
So it is.
Thanks, everyone. And now, one more time, let's close our outer eyes. And recognize that bright, shining day ahead of us, that we are one with the infinite in bright, shiny days, that our love, our expression of that love, our connectedness to each other, and our commitment to a world that works for everyone is truly what is our task ahead. And we are well prepared for that. And so, in gratitude, I release this word into the law of love, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you all so very much for being with us today. Have a really wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. I love you.